everybody, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Divine Mind podcast. My name is Liam or Hydrisney Keneally. Today, I have a YouTuber, a content creator, mainly focusing around the Halo series, but also dabbling into some other games. I have Late Night Gaming. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty good, as good as it can be.
Yeah.
Got a bit of an info dump yesterday.
I know. I'm so excited to talk to you about that. Especially, I love getting to talk to lots of people on the podcast, but when I get to talk to YouTubers specifically, they seem to be very detail orientated, So when we get something like the campaign release that we had yesterday, it's exciting stuff to talk about. What were your initial thoughts?
Extremely positive. Obviously there's stuff that I wasn't too keen on, but it's like it's really hard to talk about those things without feeling like I'm just nitpicking at this point, because what we saw was overwhelmingly positive. I liked it all.
Yeah, for sure. Well, give me some pros and cons. What were the favorite aspects you saw that got you most hyped?
Okay, so pros right off the bat, something I really appreciate about the game. This is kind of like a thing that I've felt about Halo for a while. And then when COVID happened and obviously the world became a little bit more depressing to be in, things got harder, and it makes me appreciate these things more and more. Halo for a while has not been very optimistic, very hopeful. If you remember, starting with Reach and then really getting into it with 4 and definitely 5, it's always been Halo sucks. The Halo universe sucks. Master Chief sucks. He's being captured and Ancient Evil awakens. Hunt the truth. Master Chief's a traitor. Master Chief's dead. Screw you. Screw Halo. It's very miserable and kind of dire and dark, the marketing. And so seeing a Halo game that's extremely optimistic and hopeful and heroic, it's you know what? That makes me feel kind of good. And then you compound on top of that the state of the world that we're living in right now.
Yeah.
Last year when COVID lockdowns started happening, Doom Eternal also came out that same day. Mm-hmm. And the very first cutscene of Doom Eternal was the world sucks. Oh, we're all dying. We need a hero. And it hit me in a way I didn't expect. It was holy crap, I kind of need a game like this right now.
Yeah.
And so seeing Halo be the next in this line of games that are a lot more optimistic, it's less about the everything sucks, we're all going to die. It's more about no, we got to fight back. We got to rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really cool, I don't know, is paradox right word to say there, but it's a really cool observation of the game, and which is an element of our lives, and then our lives that we live in every day, and how necessary it is for hope at the moment, for someone to look forward to, for that optimistic outlook in the future. Because for a lot of people, we were actually just talking about this in my scenario before we started the podcast. There's a lot of people that have been heavily affected by COVID. And this game is hopefully going to be a really positive way for a lot of people to spend some time, and have something.
Yeah, it's just media for I it's not just games. Obviously I consume a lot of different forms of media, but I guess I think of your Civil War, your Captain America Civil War type stuff or your Batman versus Superman. For a while, just media in general started to become very cynical and kind of everybody's arguing everybody sucks.
Yeah.
Type of stuff. Oh, we're being deep because we're not being heroic. And it's nice to start seeing more optimistic and hopeful story. Even Star Trek, a series known for being hopeful and kind of optimistic, with Star Trek Discovery, kind of took this nitty-gritty, dark, depressing route. And it's cool seeing media just in general start to shift more towards optimism and feeling good. I just saw Howl's Moving Castle at the movie theater because it was my birthday with my partner. And it was just man, I miss media like this that just makes me feel good and tingly after it's over.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday, first of all. Was that recently?
Thank you. Yeah, it was pretty recently, just a few days ago.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, even more reason.
Yeah.
And Howl's Moving Castle, man, is probably in my top 3 movies of all time.
Yeah, that is a good movie. That's a really good movie.
Yeah. If anyone that hasn't seen it, you absolutely have to. It's part of the Studio Ghibli franchise, and it's just it's got so much detail in it and so many undertones in the story, but yet, and it's set at a terrible time, but it's got this, yeah, man. Actually, that's a really cool reference as well. But I was thinking as you were talking about media in general, I think it could also be that when people don't really know what's going on, people, it's like sex sells, right? And people,
Right.
that's like an old thing we know. Drama also sells, and same with uncertainty, and everything's bad, and there's a big, this has just happened, and it's really, like, it's horrific. Those type of
Hunt the
things.
truth. Master Chief's a traitor. Master Chief's dead. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So sometimes people kind of take that element because they're trying to get the attention and sell it. But it's cool to see it flip. So gameplay wise, was there any like positives in there? What are you most looking forward to actually doing when you're playing Halo Infinite?
Uh, I'm definitely looking forward to the emphasis, even just like it's one of those things almost where like the narrative is kind of also infusing and driving the gameplay, where the narrative is all about that like hope and that heroism and stuff. And seeing Chief saving Marines and stuff and having that actually be like a mechanic. And the idea of like the Ubisoft open world stuff, like the checklisting,
Yeah.
I appreciate that there's actually like a narrative tie to it because like usually with most Ubisoft games, their stories are kind of the weakest elements. Like you're more so playing them just to fill checklists. But like with this game, like I do care about the UNSC. I care about humanity.
Mm.
We do need to stop Craig. So like using that as kind of an excuse to kind of like checklist these open maps to save Marines and stuff. I mean, hearing that Marine be like, Chief, is it really you? And then him like,
Yeah.
you're safe now. And
Yeah.
then seeing them actually get into the back of your warthog, like those are mechanical rewards for completing those checklisting like aspects. I mean, give one of those Marines your sniper rifle that you've been carrying, and there you go. You've got a bit of extra firepower in your warthog as
Yeah.
you explore the open world.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point to make, and it's funny to bring in as well that they had that element of humor in there as well with Chief driving off the cliff straight after that.
Oh yeah, that's like
Like,
their editors, they've studied editing. Like they've been working in the industry for a while. They didn't not notice that they had Chief drive off a cliff immediately.
yeah,
That stuff's done intentionally.
100%. And it's a perfect kind of time because this generation, man, they love the memes, like they love things like that. And I think it was a really smart way to do it, where it showed that they're not taking themselves too seriously. And that's an element of content. I think actually that plays well in line with the theme of hope. Humor and having a sense of humor is a big element of being hopeful. So
Oh
it was,
yeah.
yeah, it was fun to see that. What else? Oh, actually, what did you think? Because this was something that I really, the jackal shields always annoy me a lot. But when I saw Chief shoot the grapple hook and it bounced the shield up so he could shoot the jackal, I was just like, oh my goodness, that is a great new mechanic that I'm not sure a lot of people really picked up on, but I loved it. If I can just shoot the grapple and knock them back, and that's going to make my life so much easier.
Well, I noticed, like, speaking of the jackals, so I'm currently editing actually a breakdown of the trailer, which may or may not be up, before you even upload this. I noticed that when Chief did that, he actually disrupted a behavior that the jackal was doing that I've never seen in a Halo game, which is, how the jackal in Halo, in the original Halo trilogy, the jackals had their I think it was their weapon in their right hand and their shield in their left hand, and then it was flipped with reach. But basically, they always peaked their weapon around the shield, and you shoot the hand and it makes them recoil.
Mhm.
The jackal was rotating his shield and firing overhead this time. Like he was shooting from the side, and then he rotated his shield and peaked his weapon over his head.
Mm.
So like the jackals they'll actually make their weak point now a moving target while
Yeah.
they're in combat. And that seems goofy to point out that it's like they fire overhead. Awesome. As a Halo player who's been playing these games for 10 years, how
Yeah.
you engage with those enemies is a part of my muscle memory at this point. So
Yeah.
even if it's small, a sudden behavior change like that makes a huge difference.
Oh, for sure. I think it also makes all the fights a little bit more interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like you've actually got to think about when you're entertaining it. But it could be as well because you've got those other elements like the grapple hook where you can use to disrupt it, so they're trying to make it harder for when you don't, so that it still maintains a reasonable difficulty level. But it is going to be interesting because there's so many things that in just watching that trailer we didn't pick up on, and when we get into playing the game, we're going to be picking up on more and more of these things and being like, wow, the amount of detail that's in this is hopefully, outstanding.
Oh, there was a lot of detail in that trailer. Like,
give me some of the cons. What were the things that you kind of saw that made you go, oh, I wish that was a bit different?
Okay, so right off the bat, actually, it's the way that the equipment system seems to work. I noticed throughout the trailer, Chief would deploy his equipment and it would start to regenerate. And that seems more like Reach's armor abilities to me than like the Halo equipment system. And for the same reason, actually, that I think finite equipment that you use it and now it is spent actually benefits player exploration, making tactical choice purposeful, since there is a consequence in that you've spent the equipment. And then it also encourages exploration afterwards, because now you have to scour the map to find a new equipment, which also gives the developers tools to make exploration feel more meaningful to the player. You want to find these new pieces of equipment, so you start scouring every nook and cranny of the map. Like, just attaching these abilities to the player and letting the player use them whenever, wherever they want. Don't worry about it. It'll regenerate after like 30 seconds. That seems like a bit of a missed opportunity for me, but I also don't think it's like, anything that'll kill the game, because there are some people that do prefer that kind of style of gameplay.
Yeah. That's really interesting as well, because I didn't mind the idea of that for campaign, because but when you say as far as the way that exploration works makes a lot of sense. I think that if you have to be more purposeful with, okay, I only have a certain amount of times that I can use this before I have to find it again, you want to make sure you're using it at optimal points.
Yeah, it could even drive your reason for playing, which is I've only got one grappling hook charge. I'm going to need to get a refresh one. I should take out that banished patrol because I see one of the brutes has a grappling hook on his hip.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it. Were there any other kind of cons or things? Like, again, that's not a huge thing, but it is worth noting. Is there any other things that stood out to you?
Not really. That was basically the big one. I see a lot of people actually kind of like concerned about the Ubisoft checklisting elements, but for me, what's kind of interesting is Halo's combat has always been kind of you stumbling upon an enemy encounter and catching them by surprise, and then cleaning up, scavenging for weapons, and moving on to the next encounter. So if you blow that up into an open world, it's not actually as inorganic as some other games that have tried to make a jump to open world, and it kind of doesn't work quite well. Kind of like I think of Gears of War 5, where I think Gears is a very defensive game. And Halo is a more offensive game. It's the player, moving into the level, getting the jump on the enemies, whereas Gears of War is all about hiding behind cover. I think open worldy type of design just kind of works for Halo. Yeah.
And what was your opinion on like the way that the graphics and things looked in this trailer?
Oh man. So graphically, Halo Infinite, I don't think looks very next gen. I think it looks kind of like standard, but this is the interesting part where I think that what makes a game look good graphically is not purely its tech. I've seen some games that use photogrammetry, where they scan 3D assets into the game, that look genuinely worse, in my opinion, than games that don't have photogrammetry. I've seen modern games releasing that I think look much uglier than games that launched on the Xbox One. Like, graphical workhorseness is not the only thing that makes a game look good. And so for Halo Infinite, what it's doing that I think is quite smart is it's using the graphical upgrades to its advantage, but more importantly, the art direction, which is implying detail that the graphics can't technically render yet.
Yeah. So what do you mean exactly by implying detail?
So implying detail would kind of be like, so for example, there are some games that have volumetric smoke effects, where the idea is like, okay, a fire is actually creating a 3-dimensional blob of smoke that is capturing light and scattering it around the environment and stuff, as well as within the smoke effect itself. Some game engines aren't built to support things like volumetric smoke and fog systems. And so they have to do their best to artistically imply that effect. And for a lot of games, they use 2D kind of billboards, where if you really squint and look at it, it looks more like a GIF, like a 2D GIF of smoke that is clearly flat and not three-dimensional. And I noticed that in Halo Infinite, when the player destroyed those banished silos, those energy silos, they were billowing out smoke that when I paused the game, I was like, that is 2D. That is not a 3D pillar of smoke. It looks like a GIF of smoke. But it was designed artistically in such a way that in motion, I didn't notice that it was 2D until I paused.
Yeah. And do you think those things are important for the way that the game plays and feels? Like, as in, instead of trying to have the 3D side of things there with little visual improvement, having the 2D side of things makes the game run better or easier?
I think so. Like, it all depends kind of on how the engineers designed the slip space engine, I guess 343 is calling it. Like last year, for example, with a lot of the criticisms about Halo Infinite's graphics, like, it wasn't done because the Xbox One just couldn't handle it. You know, we have to have Craig for console reasons. Usually it's up to the programmers and stuff. They're able to make the engine and optimize around it and stuff. And it seems like the engine literally just wasn't ready yet. So for all we know, the slip space engine could handle stuff like 3D volumetric smoke. I mean, Battlefield 1 runs on the original Xbox One and looks gorgeous, and it has systems kind of like that. I think it's more around, seems like the engineers are focusing on other things right now, such as materials, which I noticed in a lot of comparison shots. Metal objects look super metal now, whereas before it was a bit hard to tell the difference between something like the leather of the Brute's undersuit and the metal on top of the leather. They looked more or less like the same material. Now there is a clear separation between those two materials.
Definitely. Yeah. All of those things are exciting reasons for the game to be looking and feeling better. We didn't get too much of an overview of like the game's sounds, but what are your thoughts on the way that the game sounds at the moment?
The way that the game sounds, I actually really like the sound design of the game. What we played in the alpha, or not alpha, the flight and stuff, I actually was a big fan of the sound design. I know that there are some nitpicks. You know, no game I think has like flawless sound design. There is the occasional one where you're kind of like, that could have used work. Like the Warthog chain gun, which I think sounds kind of atrocious in Halo Infinite. But the overall audio spectrum, I think, is a lot more clean. I noticed in the flight, as well as, you know, like the gameplay reveal and stuff, whenever you reload a weapon, the reload sounds are a lot softer and a lot more clippy, where it's just kind of like this very soft, subdued sound, where the actual firing of the weapon is more so the focus. And I actually really appreciate that, because when I'm reloading a gun in a game, I know I'm reloading it. I'm the one who pressed the reload button. I don't need the sound of this like
dramatic,
you know, like you swallowing up the audio spectrum. Kind of like Halo 5, I think, where the reload sound of the battle rifle in that game was actually louder than the gunshot that came from it. So there's a lot of like just tactical precision with how the sound of Halo Infinite is right now, and I really appreciate the way that the game sounds. It sounds very clean.
Yeah, it sure does. I personally, after playing the flight as much as I did, found it difficult to go back to playing Halo 5 and MCC for about a week. Like, there was a long time there where I was playing and I was just like, there's so many things that I can't even directly pick that were positive about Halo Infinite and the way that it played, that I don't get out of these, you know, mainly Halo 3 and Halo 5, right?
Yeah, well, Halo 3 has all sorts of weird wonkiness with how it handled its audio.
Yeah. But one of the main things I think was the environmental sound in Halo Infinite, as in, like, when I'm playing Halo 5 and there's gunshots, I can hear gunshots, right? In Halo 5, especially in Big Team, which I thought was beautiful, and I don't think it got quite enough recognition. If I was, on a certain part of the map, and over here there's a fight going on between two warthogs, and over here there's some explosions. If you're really thinking about it, you can distinctly hear that over here there's two warthogs fighting, and there's an explosion, right? If there's gunfire going on in a part of the map that's completely irrelevant to you, you can't hear it, right? And so I thought that was really beautiful, because it meant that for someone like me, when I'm playing, I would be focusing on something, but I could still hear sounds that had an implied effect. Like, okay, there's a warthog about to come around the corner, right? And I could literally hear it coming around the corner, not just hear a warthog noise. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think in Halo 5 and Halo 3 and other Halos, you kind of hear a warthog noise, and that's how you know that there's a warthog, right? Whereas
it's not occluded. Like, it sounds like it's only a few feet away from you, even though it should sound like muffled and distorted because it's behind a wall.
Yeah, which I think personally they were doing a really good job of in the flight, especially. So I hope that that's something that continues on into when the game's released. Being able to enjoy the sound like that, because I think it makes the game a lot more immersive. You can really feel like you're a part of what's happening. You know what I mean? Rather than like a person playing the game. But all right, overall, if you had to give your feelings on a scale of like 1 to 10, 10 being that Halo is going to be back on top, it's like the best possible game ever, and 1 is complete flop, where would you put what we know about Halo Infinite so far?
Well, I feel like that's almost kind of unfair for the game, because a perfect score is an ideal to strive for. It's not actually something that you can reasonably achieve. So knocking points off for failing to be perfect doesn't seem like, it seems a little bit unfair for the game for me. So it's less about
so what 10, so what if I said 10 is the best Halo game in the franchise?
Oh, I don't even think that that's even achievable, because it all depends on what a person values. For me, I like classic Halo. For me, a classic Halo game would be my favorite game in the series. But for Halo Infinite, it's clearly not trying to be classic. It's much more interested in being this new thing. I kind of described like Doom Eternal or Doom 2016. It's less about being a classic style Halo game, and it's more about taking all the ideas of a classic style Halo game and repackaging them in this kind of like modern lens full of modern gameplay bells and whistles that people enjoy now. I think that Halo Infinite, if it plays its cards right, it could be a fantastic, solid, modern Halo game for people. It could, for a lot of people, be their version of Halo 3 or Halo 2. I think it's got, I think it can do it.
Yeah. That is, I guess, in its own way, answering the question, because Halo 3 was my favorite Halo, right? But and I don't think anything could ever be Halo 3 again for me, because of where I was in my life, the experiences I had playing.
Oh yeah, I've got way too much nostalgia for Halo 3 for any other Halo game to be as good as it, and that's not the fault of any other Halo game.
Exactly. I'm still in the sense, though, that like this could be the best Halo to me, and I want it to be what Halo 3 was for me for other people. That,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, especially that generation where there's a generation of kids that couldn't talk when Halo 5 came out, that are now like, almost driving cars, and and they're getting to experience this as like their true first Halo game. You know what I mean? And that's all I'm really wanting, is like they can sit down and play this as their first Halo game from launch, and just absolutely get to love it,
Yeah.
and enjoy it and experience it, and have that nostalgia playthrough campaign with a friend, get into ranked games for the first time, have those competitions between friendship groups at school, who's better, like that type of thing. And so, well, that's all positive, really positive stuff, I think, for the game, if it can at least drive that. A question for you about the way that like the what's it called, battle pack, the way that things will kind of unlock as we go. How do you think about that?
Oh, the battle pass stuff, I don't I don't care. What's kind of funny for me was when we were playing the flight, and I unlocked a red skin for the battle rifle, and I put the red skin on the battle rifle. Seeing the classic battle rifle design, but with a coating, I was immediately like, ooh, this doesn't look right. This isn't how the battle rifle looks to me. And I just took it off
Yeah.
and ran the rest. So for me, a lot of that, I don't know, I guess like the cosmetic stuff, the monetized cosmetics and battle passes, like that just, it doesn't engage me that much anymore. Like just play for X amount of hours and you will get like a flaming skull.
Yeah.
What it
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm much less interested in the battle pass, even more less interested now that I know that progression is kind of unfortunately tethered to completing challenges. I can't just passively
Yeah.
get XP by playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, the battle pass, that's not really a driver for me. I'm just more interested in playing the game than I am unlocking crap.
Yeah, no, 100%. I didn't even look at the battle pass once. Like I wasn't, if I did, it wasn't like I wasn't looking for something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was kind of just like, what's on here? I don't remember. I don't even know how you were meant to apply most of it, because it just doesn't have a big influence in the game to me. And like you said, I would much rather be unlocking something because I got 100 overkills and I got 100 overkills and I unlock something, or complete the campaign on legendary, so I unlock something, or you know what I mean? Like rewards that are based around skill based objectives, I've always found more appealing in any game.
Then this
Um,
like time gatey stuff where it's complete 75 tiers of your battle pass, and you're like, but I don't want to unlock 75 pieces of crap I'm not going to use.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I hope they have a tie between the two. Surely they'll have some things like you unlock it if you do something. You know, like that's the type of stuff that I think that a lot of games like Battlefield and Call of Duty really have on Halo and always have is, you know, like Call of Duty. I've said this heaps of times on the podcast, so sorry for anyone that's listened to multiple episodes, but um Call of Duty, if you die enough times and then get a kill, you get a medal for dying and then getting a kill. And that, you know what I mean? And that gives you, when you get that kill, you've got like 5 things that come up on the screen, like an SMG kill, you know, like another thing, a
Yeah.
headshot, you know, like it's just this endorphin rush of blah 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 blah. And at the end of the game, you unlock something. You know, like for getting it, and then it gives you, okay, that was, you needed to get one of those to start it, and then now you need 5, and now you need 10, and they've got so many aspects of that you can play the game for so long and you're still unlocking things and figuring things out, and it's not tied to the battle pass, and it's not tied to, you know, like a tier system. I'm hoping that Halo also integrates something similar to that.
Yeah.
But
Like a progression system that is surgically detached from the monetized aspects of the
100%.
progression system.
Yeah, like we kind of had it with the Target Master camos in Halo 5, you know, which was like you know, getting a certain number of wins to unlock the skin. But I think that should be, you know, like Call of Duty's good example is that they have weapon camo skins where you need to get a certain number of headshots to unlock the final challenges, right? Whether you like that or not, it gives an aspect of the game to people that they can grind that, and it gives them a reason to use other weapons. And you know, like in Halo, for example.
Yeah, what's that dark matter camo that I guess became a thing with Black Ops 3?
That's if you unlock every single max camo for every gun that's launched with the game.
Yeah, Call of Duty players go crazy every year about the dark matter camos. Like that stuff matters more than reaching max tier in your battle pass.
Yeah, and by the time that you've played that much to get it, they've usually got something else, you know what I mean, that comes out that is worth grinding for. So I'm hoping that Halo can kind of pick up on some of those successful aspects of other games and go, okay, you know, and then because once you've got it, and then they start releasing cool armor and things that are, you know, pay to unlock, or, you know, unlock it with the battle pass type thing, you're more inclined to do those type of things because you've already got the thing that's the hardest to get. You know what I mean? So I think that hopefully we can kind of mash those two things together. But we've talked for way too long about this. I want to know a little bit more about you. Tell me, how long have you been a Halo fan for?
I've been a Halo fan since it's hard to say, because it's either Halo 2 or Halo Combat Evolved that were my first Halo games.
Yeah.
And I can't quite remember. I know one of my most vivid introductions to the series was playing Blood Gulch, but I can't for the life of me remember if it was Blood Gulch from Halo 2 or Halo Combat Evolved. I
Yeah.
just remember dinner at a friend's house because my mom was friends with their family, and after dinner it was like, hey, you want to go play the Xbox? And it was like, sure. And then the shock of getting into a vehicle on Blood Gulch, it was a Ghost, and actually seeing the camera seamlessly transition to third person versus most games where it's you go up and you press the button and it just boop, you're in third person and the camera's behind the vehicle. You've just become a vehicle.
Yeah. 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 That was the first experience. Wow.
Yeah,
And
that's still I feel like that aspect of Halo gameplay, the way that like you're in the world, you interact with something, and the camera seamlessly transitions into third person, and you see your character there. No jank, it all feels fluid. That's such an aspect of Halo gameplay that I think is underappreciated.
yeah, definitely. So you go to your friends, your mum's friend's place. You go and you play Halo C or Halo 2 for the first time.
Mhm.
And how long is it before you get your own experience where it's something you can sit down and play regularly?
So it was actually around Halo 2 and Halo Combat Evolved were always like mysterious and elusive to me. I'd either be watching my sister play through Halo Combat Evolved, or I'd be at my friend's house watching his older brother playing Halo 2 campaign with his friend. So it was always like mostly backseat spectating Halo and occasionally playing it myself. But Halo had a lot of magic. It was very important because it was always this mysterious thing that I'd think about. It also helps that my grandfather was a priest in the Russian Orthodox Church. So I grew up, going to church and stuff, lots of choirs, lots of chanting. So the game is literally called Halo, and its main menu has sounds that are very familiar to me, monastic chanting.
Yeah.
So it's already like weaponized against me.
Yep.
And then Halo 3 was actually when it was like properly, reliably playing it with a friend, because my friend had an Xbox 360. He had the Halo 3 limited edition one, the green one with the helmet.
Yeah, I remember that.
And after school, I would go to his place and we'd play through the Halo 3 campaign. We'd play it over and over and over again. Yeah, that's kind of where a lot of the nostalgia for Halo 3 comes from, is all those days after school playing it with a friend.
Yeah. So you were mainly a campaign player as well when you first got into Halo?
Oh yeah. I dabbled in multiplayer with Halo 3, but I'd say Reach was like kind of the first proper, always like online, like actually playing it for real Halo game.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that just I'm not sure. How old are you?
So I am 25.
So you're kind of same generation as me. Was that more a factor of not having access to playing online for
Oh yeah.
like most of your youth and then getting access to it?
Oh
Or was
yeah.
it just
This was back in the day when online for consoles was an accessory more than it was a built-in feature. You had to go out and you had to buy a dongle for your Xbox 360 to connect to Xbox Live. Do you remember that?
yeah, the little thing with the two like that
With
big
the two antenna.
yeah. I
Then
remember
you had to buy Microsoft points. Like, yeah, Xbox Gold wasn't a thing. It was called Xbox Live.
yeah.
You paid for Xbox Live. Just natively, your console was offline.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that a crazy thing to think about how far we've come?
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And
It's weird because I had a younger kid, I think he's 15, and he DM'd me on Instagram and he said, I just watched an episode of the podcast and you guys are talking about not playing online. And I was like, yeah, that was how most of us played. Like it wasn't, he's like, but I don't understand. Like you couldn't just go into matchmaking and verse someone. And I was like,
nope.
the consoles didn't even connect to internet naturally. You had to either plug a cable into it or you had to get a Wi-Fi router, which was separate. And he just blew his mind. He just did not, you know what I mean? Did not even understand.
Yeah. For me, the multiplayer was going into Forge during the week, making a cool map, and then hoping on the weekend you can have some friends come over to play that map split screen with.
Yeah, yeah. at your house, right? Like
yeah, it had to be physically at your place. You couldn't hop on Xbox Live because if you didn't have that internet dongle, like you were out of luck.
yeah, yeah. No, I remember that as well. So how were you like at school and everything like that? Were you like a gamer the whole way through school and like going into, you know, finishing school, or was gaming something that was just kind of like a backseat for you, kind of just did it as a hobby the whole way through?
Definitely as I became a teenager, gaming started to become more and more kind of a part of my life. When I was a kid, like I had a computer actually, and that was mostly where I did a lot of my PC. The first, I guess, like next gen, you could say, was the Xbox 360 that I had gotten because before then, like the original Xbox, like I was more into like the Nintendo GameCube and stuff.
Yeah,
Halo was really the only reason I'd want an Xbox
yeah.
console.
What games were you playing on GameCube?
Oh man, what games wasn't I? Mario Sunshine,
Oh, I
Luigi's
loved that
Mansion.
game.
Yeah, Luigi's Mansion, Sonic Adventure 2, Rayman 3, lots of 3D platformers,
That's
Medal
cool.
of Honor, European Assault.
Yeah. Have you got a Switch at the moment?
Oh, of course I have a Switch.
So did you get the 3 pack, the Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and
Oh
Mario
yeah.
Galaxy?
Oh
Oh,
yeah. I that was kind of a no-brainer purchase for me. I was like,
yeah.
Mario Sunshine on the go? Yes.
Dude, that's probably one of the greatest things that I love that Nintendo does is that they don't just let games go. You know what I mean? Like they keep finding ways. I know some people don't like it, but you know, it's the nostalgia. Like Mario 64 is probably one of the best games I've ever played, like in my life. And I've got so much time put into that game, and all it is the same levels. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, and then same with Mario Sunshine, the music in that, the time of
The
my life that I
atmosphere.
was, oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
But
Nintendo, they're actually a good example, kind of cycling back to the idea of like graphics matter, but artistic presentation can sometimes do more than graphics. Like
yeah.
Nintendo is extremely talented
Mm,
with making very clever artistic choices to imply detail where their
mm,
hardware can't actually like support it.
yeah. That and I think that they also are they put themselves in a position where they don't then people aren't trying to compare them against other people. They're like, oh, this was happening. Like a good example is that they've got a bunch of new Pokemon games coming out. I don't know, do you follow any of the Pokemon stuff at all?
Oh yeah.
So you've got the Diamond and Pearl remakes, which the art style is more that anime kind of chibi, like art style, which a lot of people
Mhm.
were against. But then they had the Legend of Arceus one, which is going to be like told from a historical point of view. And again, and that's meant to be more open world. That art style is completely different again. And I think that I find that very interesting because, like you said, it's an artistic representation. And if you look at those two games side by side, you're like, they're both Pokemon games, but they're extremely different to even the mainstream of Pokemon games. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I think you're right. They're an interesting company to look at that type of thing. But when you so Halo Reach was the game that you played most of, like multiplayer wise, online wise.
Yep. And then kind of gradually moved backwards in time to Halo 3.
Yeah,
And now I spend a lot of my Halo 3 days playing it on the MCC since
yeah,
it's available on PC.
yeah. It's fantastic. It's a really good thing to. Do you play more ranked stuff at the moment, or more like just social? What type of thing gets you?
So I ranked stuff. I'm unfortunately not competitive enough of a person to really get heavily invested in ranked play.
Yeah.
But so I guess I am more of like a social person. Like I kind of play games almost now more for like the stories,
Mm,
I guess, via gameplay, like that getting in the Warthog, having a guy hop on the gunner seat or whatever. And if something memorable happens, such as doing a specific flip or whatever, then got it, that match was worth it. More
yeah,
than
yeah.
if I get like a specific killing spree or something.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you're saying. I'm finding it a bit difficult as well. I'm trying to put more content out on YouTube, right?
Mhm.
And this is kind of what a good way to bring into the content creation side of things for you. And I find that I'm definitely a gamer. right? Like I can sit and play the game and grind for clips and try to get specific medals, and like I love that side of things, right? But I
Right.
know that in order for our YouTube channel to grow and for our social media presence to grow, I need to put more time into actually creating the content side of things. And that comes more difficult. Like I have to put a lot more effort into doing that rather than like playing for gameplay and that type of thing. When did your like idea to get involved with creating content around the games you were playing, when did that start?
Well, it's interesting. So, like in high school for me, YouTube was always like this kind of just side hobby. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to be. Maybe like an actor or something, because I was in drama class. But the YouTube was just like a side thing that I uploaded occasionally. Like it was more of almost like an expression of like the fact that I was really into theater.
Yeah.
And it was fun, like the video production process, writing scripts and stuff, practicing voiceovers. But my channel actually like started to grow kind of with Halo, and it probably wasn't until I made this one video that was on the history of the arbiters that got 7,000 views, but by my small channel standard, that was really big. And it was like, man, like this is cool. I should make a couple more of these. And the channel kept growing. And then around leading up to Halo 5, I was very excited about the game. And then the game came out, and it wasn't exactly the game that I think a lot of us hoped it would be, at least at launch. And I remember it being kind of like shocked and wounded by the game, because I was so hyped about it, and it did not live up to my expectations. And I remember then eventually making a series of like basically critiques about where the Halo series was kind of going wrong. I mean, that art style video that has almost 1 million views that I wish people would stop watching because I don't look back on it fondly.
Yeah.
The one with the grunts in the thumbnail. That video was the one that properly exploded. And ever since then, I've been kind of locked to the Halo grind and stuff. And then, yeah,
Yeah. I find it very interesting because a lot of people, especially like Halo YouTubers at the moment, um, they're they've got, you know, they're streaming, they're doing a bunch of stuff as well. Is YouTube the main place that you put the majority of your content? Are you gonna dabble in more of the live streaming side of things as well, or is your
oh,
passion just for creating the YouTube videos?
so the problem with like YouTube videos is that I have a lot of opinions about a lot of things, and not all of them require a whole like production, a whole video essay, song and dance routine. So and streaming is actually a good outlet for like expressing some of those opinions and actually engaging with audiences directly. And I do actually like streaming. My partner, she has actually been kind of like pushing and poking and prodding me to get me into streaming, usually when it comes to stuff that I'm like uncomfortable about or I've never like done it before. So obviously I'm a little bit apprehensive. I kind of drag my feet
Yeah.
with getting into that kind of stuff. But uh when Halo Infinite officially releases, I think I am going to try to properly get more into streaming.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that'd be a really great thing to do because I think so many people would love to be able to watch your videos and then ask you something in your chat. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I
Yeah.
just watched your YouTube video and like I left a comment, but I just had to come. I saw that you were live and I was wondering what you thought about this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's a really good way for people to kind of build a bit more of a relationship with you as a content creator. And then they want to watch even more of your content, you know?
And then it helps also because there are old videos that I have right now that I wish I could redo a little bit differently, kind of like that art style video.
Mm.
When you make a video, it's almost like a part of yourself is now frozen in time permanently, but exists in the present. So somebody can go and watch a video that I made years and years ago where I express like certain opinions that maybe I don't hold anymore,
Yeah.
or I do hold them, but my opinion on them is slightly altered. But people will just see that video now and they'll be like, I hate that guy. Look what he said 4 years ago. Where with streaming, you can't ask in the immediate moment, how do you feel about this thing now? Have your opinions changed? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course. everything changes, I guess, over time, right?
Yeah, we grow as people. We're not just, it would be incredibly irresponsible if you kind of stayed the same person over the course of multiple years.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, okay, you, how long have you had the YouTube channel for, or the late night gaming YouTube channel?
Man, 7 years maybe?
Wow, that's awesome. And you're sitting at now, I think about 166,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
That's a hell of an achievement, man. You must be pretty proud of yourself.
I am proud. And I'm trying to make it grow even bigger now. With Rebecca, my partner, she's really pushing me to keep on growing, basically. Like before it had never like concerned me, I guess, like the size.
Mm.
But now it's like I am properly starting to think about it as like a job. Like maybe just being a YouTuber should be the thing that I pursue because
Yeah.
I enjoy doing it. I enjoy making videos. In fact, I just recently played the Crisis trilogy and plan to do like an hour-long kind of scripted video essay on the Crisis trilogy.
Yeah. Well, you can tell that the way that you talk about it is super passionate, but you also have really valuable opinions, and I think that that's what people really appreciate. And look, I've been a fan of your content for ages. I've watched a ton of your videos, and I think that the perspective that you put on it, the way that you sound, I know that sounds silly, but the way that you sound in your videos is really positive, and it makes me want to watch more of your content. So I definitely think you're someone that should be doing more YouTube. But so you're not a full-time content creator. You're also doing work outside of that.
Not necessarily work, but yeah, kind of like it's not full-time yet or as full-time as it could be.
Yeah.
It's more or less like a hobby. With COVID, obviously lots of things have, like happened. So I'm staying with family currently.
Yeah.
But yeah, when kind of like the world goes back to normal a little bit, I do want to do it full time.
Awesome. And so, did you study something? Do you have like another kind of direction in real life that has your passion?
So actually it is like a lot of I was studying actually at community college a few years ago. I was I want to say 2014 maybe.
Yeah.
I was taking classes for literature, like writing and
Mm.
stuff, as well as speaking, uh, communications. And I was even thinking about starting to get into like more drama type stuff, even like film and like TV production. And that's kind of when the YouTube channel took over a little bit, and my attention got sidetracked over to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, because I'm so curious, I'm having a look at the YouTube channel now just so that I can ask some more specific questions. First of all, I think it's so funny the one you're talking about with the two grunts as the thumbnail. You've actually changed the title to "This video is outdated."
Yep, that's the one.
And that's got 1.2 million views. You have
Yep.
also the Halo 2 anniversary Gravemind cutscene that has 1.2 million views. So you've got a bunch of videos here that are over 1 million views. What does it feel like when a video kind of hits that million view milestone for the first time?
At first, it's incredibly exciting because it's like, holy crap, like people appreciate this, like it's doing well. Then there's obviously the anxieties of like, oh man, because then you start noticing all the little editing mistakes or
Like
audio
someone's
slip.
seen that.
Yep. You start to notice all of those mistakes, and they kind of inform your next video where you're like, try not to repeat those same mistakes ever again.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it gets even more exciting when it is like properly a video that you feel is almost like, yeah, this video was mostly perfect. It's exactly how I wanted it to be. Like I think it aged really well, and it also seems to do well.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, because that's I don't think there's too many people that watch the podcast that would know or could even imagine what it feels like to get a video to 1 million views, let alone do it 4 or 5 times. Is there a secret to what you were doing to like to get that same kind of flow going between the videos?
I don't think it's really like a secret about like tricking the algorithm or anything. Is that mostly what you're referring to?
I'm not so much tricking the algorithm, but was there a process in your mind that you were kind of trying to follow? Because you did it the first time 6 years ago, and then you did it 5 years ago, and then you did it 2 years ago, and another time 2 years ago, and you got a video that you put out 1 year ago that's coming up on the million views. So was when you were kind of making those videos, was there a process of, like if you think of your Halo 3 with ray tracing video, or the evolution of Halo's Magnum, or the 2019 versus 2001 downgrades. When you kind of look at those videos, right?
Yeah.
Were you thinking or working through a process that maybe you weren't with other videos that worked for those?
Okay, I see what you mean. Sort of. Yeah, it's obviously, so with things like the graphical downgrades video as an example, it's less about I want this video to go viral, and it's more about I want this video to go viral because I need people to talk about this thing that I'm very passionate about, which is like the graphical downgrades of Halo Combat Evolved. And hey, it paid off. The MCC Halo Combat Evolved is back to its old self now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like you have to keep up the pacing. I'd say pacing is probably one of the most important parts, like even more so than the editing, because I see a lot of like video essays where the editing is fantastic, but holy moly, the pacing is so slow.
Yeah.
There was, it almost starts immediately off the bat with the 7-second rule, where it's like you kind of want to hook your audience within 7 seconds, which is my YouTube intro. The reason that it's so brief, to the point that sometimes I don't even have it, is because I kind of want to get to the point as fast as I can. I don't want to meander a little bit. And also when I talk, your your ahs and stuff, you want to cut those out of your videos. You want to make sure that the conversation is happening at a brisk pace and that people can keep up with it.
Yeah, certainly. And so, okay, those were a few things that you had going through. And then you think it's a mixture of that it's something you're passionate about, like you said, with the downgrade, right, between the graphics between on MCC. That was something that you passionately wanted to portray a message of to everybody else.
Yeah.
So everybody that was watching it can clearly feel your passion for it, and also probably agreed with what you had to say, and that's why it was successful.
Yeah, is you got to appear passionate about it. You got to pace your arguments well. And then I'd also say you've got to almost make your arguments, I guess, like iconic, for lack of a better word. You got to think about like what are going to be the iconic shots that people are going to take away from this, the stuff that's meme worthy and quotable.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the arguments that I see that I made in that video, I actually see people like sharing around online in regards to some of the graphical downgrades, which is important. If you're going to show a very specific thing, like in the video, I pointed out that the Combat Evolved remaster, the campaign, a lot of the artistic choices for it were built off of the team looking at the wrong version of Combat Evolved, seeing a broken electricity effect that looks more like smoke, and thinking, that's smoke. Let's put higher quality smoke in a remaster, where all along, no, that was supposed to be electricity. The graphical effect was broken.
Yeah.
And I made a point to bring that up in the video, that look, they're even misinterpreting the broken graphics as how it normally looked, and they used those broken graphics to inform the remaster. Like it's already happening, guys. People are forgetting what Combat Evolved used to look like. That's kind of an iconic part of that video that's very quotable and shareable. Is that artistic mistake that they made.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Well, I think that's some really great insight as well. The other thing, if you were going to give some insight or maybe even some advice to young people that wanted to become YouTubers, to create some content,
do
you have any advice you'd give to them?
Oh man, this is okay. So this is a lot of fun, because these are the lessons I've learned myself.
Awesome.
Audio matters a lot more than you think when you're making a video, the audio presentation of your video. So a lot of people will play Halo music, and it'll just be the Halo music. Like they'll play the Warthog run, and they're just talking about a new MCC update or something. Something I'm actually really happy that I get complimented on. It means I know that like I'm doing it well. is I take the audio extremely seriously. I make sure to never use like those kind of bombastic tracks like the Warthog Run. What you want to do is kind of look for, make sure that whatever song or whatever audio and visual stuff that you're doing in your video, it's matching the tone and pacing of your voice. So if you're talking about something more like nostalgic and reflective, you're thinking back, don't use the bombastic saving the day music, you know, use something slower, something a little bit more dreamlike, which a lot of the Halo main menus have a lot of very dreamy songs that are great at using. When you want something a little bit more intense, a little bit more actiony, maybe don't use the full-on Warthog Run, since that is a very engaging driving song, but use something that kind of implies that same energy. Like basically your voice is the most important thing. The audio behind your voice needs to support it. And if you're using a song that's too powerful and is accidentally diverting attention off your voice, then that's a mistake that you can make. And it's a mistake I've made a lot. There's a video that I made called "The Banished Are Beautiful." And at the end of the video, in my conclusion, talking about like, and in conclusion, the banished are beautiful, I made the mistake of using the Warthog Run song. And whenever I re-listen to that video, the end of it makes me cringe a little bit because it's just like the Warthog theme blaring as I'm talking, and it's very distracting to me. I should have used something a little bit softer, a little bit less attention grabbing that would have supported what I was saying rather than divert attention away from it.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. I think something that a lot of people can learn from. Is there any other tips in there that you'd give to people wanting to get into YouTube?
Just if you're passionate about a thing, be passionate about it. Walk your viewer through why you feel that way. Try to help them step into your shoes, so to speak, when you're describing something you care about.
And do you have a process of how you come up with ideas for videos that you think will do well?
Videos that I think will do well. Sometimes actually odd specificity. I think that's how you pronounce it. Like that can work to your advantage. Some of my most successful videos are the ones that are strangely specific.
Yeah.
Like goofing off in reshade. And it's like the more confident you are about that kind of stuff, you know, and the more charismatic you are about it. Like I could have just dryly walked you through my process of like, here's the values that I use, this is what I did, blah, 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 blah. But the fact that I almost turned it into a story and kind of like added this air of like, yes, what we're doing is very silly, stay with me. Like so that stuff does help a lot.
Yeah.
In making the videos more immersive, and the fact that it is something super specific, like that Rocket Sloth channel. They're actually like, those guys are perfect with that kind of stuff where we play every Halo campaign without getting in a vehicle.
Yeah.
And it's just such a confident title.
Yeah.
And it's just, man, they are really doing just that.
Yeah,
or we find every bird in a Halo.
Yeah.
It's just, there's a confidence and a charisma behind that kind of just like, yeah, we're doing this. And it's very specific.
Yeah. Yeah. I see what you're saying. So it could be having that level of specificity that is, that kind of makes you a little bit different as well.
Yeah. Don't be embarrassed about the fact that you're doing something that nobody would ever care for. Like they're going to care about it because you clearly for some reason care so much about it.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, that's some really good advice there as well. When you're kind of looking at the future for your channel and for the content you're going to create and hopefully starting streaming, because I'd love to be able to come in and support the stream as well. Do you have any goals and things that you kind of, or milestones that you've got set out there that you want to achieve?
I guess I've got to figure out first, what is streaming? What is that? What is success in the streaming world? What kind of content am I good for? Like when it comes to streaming, like there's a lot to learn. That's kind of exciting. Like it's just completely like, I've never been there before, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's going to be very interesting to see how you tackle it, because I think a lot of YouTubers come across from the YouTube space and just start playing the game. But, you know, maybe there's some space there for you to be able to take the stuff that you're really good at and stream it in a different way. So looking forward to seeing what you do there. YouTube wise, you're coming up to 200,000. Actually, something that is I find really interesting. How many YouTube subscribers would you say that you're getting on a day, like each day on average now?
That's a good question. It all depends on, I guess, like how much effort I'm putting into the YouTube videos, because like you kind of get what you put out. So it's YouTube isn't quite as passive, I guess, of like this thing where it's just like, the subscribers are rolling in. It does get to that point when you're at a certain level, but there is also a little bit of work to it.
Yeah. When did you start noticing that it did have that passive element to it?
It was probably around the time that I got to 75,000. That's when a bit of a snowball effect started to kick in.
Yeah.
And I started to notice that the subscribers were coming in naturally.
Yeah.
And now that Halo Infinite is a thing, like that's definitely, happening more and more now. I'd probably say it's maybe like 2,000 a month. And I want to see if I can like start maybe, increasing that a little bit.
That's fantastic. 2,000 a month. I tell you right now, if I could get 2,000 subs in a month, I'd be absolutely stoked. But like you said, 7 years of hard, passionate work that's gone into your videos, into crafting things that millions of people can find enjoyable and want to watch and share with their friends. So it's a talent, what you do. And I know I enjoy a lot of the content that you put out as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with Halo Infinite. What are you most looking forward to about this, influx of attention that will come with Halo Infinite?
Oh man, probably definitely all the oddly specific opinions that I can have about Halo. The fact that it's open world, that actually does make me excited, because that means I can literally there's lots of corners to shove my nose into.
Yeah.
And start looking around, and that does make me really excited about the game.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm excited to see everything that you do. We're coming up on about an hour now, so I'm gonna got a few questions in there just to finish things off and make sure that we don't drag on way too long. And that is, if you had to look at yourself 5 years from now, what does that dream reality of late night gaming look like?
The dream reality of late night gaming. Probably being one of those channels where I do feel like I can kind of like talk about anything and everything. Like it's more about just like the specific opinions that I can have about games. Hopefully even inspiring people to make similar kinds of channels where they feel more comfortable with expressing their bizarrely specific opinions about things.
Yeah.
Possibly even getting to work on a game. Like working on games seems incredibly stressful because there's all sorts of variables, and I feel like I'd maybe want to do something like that someday.
So working on a game and being able to insert your opinion straight into it, that'd be cool.
Yeah, just kind of being a part of that process. It seems exciting.
Yeah, it sure does. I hope you can work on getting towards that as well. I have another question that I was only just thinking of then. Who are your favorite YouTubers to watch?
Oh man. My favorite YouTubers to watch. That's a good question. One of my favorite channels that I like to watch every now and then is some of the big like video essay type stuff, your Ray Civics, your Noah Gervais, where they make these like hour-long video essay scripted stuff. But I also do actually enjoy podcasts. Like I pay for the YouTube premium thing. So when I'm driving somewhere, I like to listen to podcast stuff. So this is actually good because I've scrolled through your list of stuff and you've interviewed quite a lot of people. So that gives me a lot of content to look through.
Well, I hope you get to listen to some of them, because that list is been growing. But I looked back on it just recently when I was actually applying for like a potential sponsor for the podcast, and I thought, wow, that list and the people that we've had on, the level of success that they've all been seeing, especially within Halo, is incredible, and it's something that I'm really proud of being able to do. So I hope you do get to listen. I hope you enjoy it as well. I'd love some feedback to make sure that I can improve on it as well. But it's been a pleasure to have you on, man. Thank you so much for making the time to come and chat with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And before we finish up, is there anything else you want to talk about? I want to bring up that that maybe I haven't touched on.
Um, no, I don't know.
I think we've done pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and an hour races by. Well, when you're answering a question, I just looked up at the clock and I was like, "It's almost 3:30. What do we do? We've been going for ages." So, anyway, for everybody that's watched this podcast, thank you so much. Your viewership means the absolute world to both myself and Late Night Gaming. So, if you want to check out more of his content, as always, click in the link in the description. We'll have everything there, so you can go and watch all of his YouTube videos and binge watch them all and have an opinion and get into his opinions on really specific things. Also, hopefully when he starts streaming live on Twitch, be able to go and check him out there. I'll leave a link to his Twitter as well. It's a good place to just be a part of the conversation. If you're wanting to be more of the Halo community, that is a really great place to get involved in it. But Late Night Gaming, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And everybody else out there, as always, leave a comment down below. Let me know any feedback, anyone else you want to have on the podcast. Oh, that's almost what I forgot to do. I generally ask a guest on the podcast, somebody who you would like to tag in that you think has a great story or you'd like to learn more about from either the Halo or esports community. Is there someone that comes to mind for you?
Somebody actually that would be pretty interesting. Because we were just talking about like turning YouTube into a full-time thing that you actually commit like time and resources to, it being your living. Halo Cannon, Ian Halo Cannon.
Yep.
He just recently made the choice to quit his job and focus all his work on YouTubing. He might be somebody interested, and he's been around a little bit longer than me.
Excellent.
So
yeah, I've watched a bunch of his content. So if you wouldn't mind making the introduction, just saying, "Hey, Liam from Divine Mind's going to DM you about jumping on the podcast," just so it's not a random DM for me, you know.
I can do that,
and then I can get him on there. But again, thank you so much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to see you blow up even more with Halo Infinite and all the attention that your wonderful content's going to be getting. And I'm sure that we'll be able to keep in touch. So thank you again for everybody that watched this, and I'll see you all on the next episode of the podcast.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is